You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Usman Fazli is managing attorney at Fazli Law Firm, a dedicated legal partner specializing in personal injury law. With a background rooted in the vibrant streets of Queens and Long Island, Usman brings extensive knowledge and passion for justice to his practice. As the driving force behind Fazli Law Firm, Usman has earned a reputation for both aggression and compassion in advocating for his clients, particularly in personal injury cases. Usman, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you, Chad. Thank you for having me. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. Great to have you. Hey, tell me about, tell me how and when you decided you wanted to become an attorney.
Believe it or not, when I was in elementary school, an elementary teacher of mine signed my yearbook and literally said that, good luck, wish you well, the good wishes you typically get from a teacher on your yearbook. And she signed off saying, I will look you up once you become a lawyer. At that moment, it didn't occur to me until I looked through my yearbook, and everybody's too busy through middle school, high school, goofing around and what have you. So so I looked at the yearbook. It was kind of like my mother tucked it away in some kind of a box in an attic. And I was just going through it, looking at my picture since elementary school. And I came across that note. And I remembered that teacher. That note that she signed off is what got me more pumped up that, oh my God, since a teacher identified me as a person who's going to become a lawyer. Now, whether or not she's alive, I hope she is, or whether she looked me up or not, I don't know. But again, this was I guess 25, so many decades ago. So that is what kind of got me going. And I always appreciated the level of hard work lawyers put in to bring justice on the table for people. It's a job that is satisfying at the end of the day. And it's, it gives you the ability to think outside the box. So take that teacher's inspirational note, and with the overall nature of being a lawyer, was something that was, trying not to sound too cliche, but it did become something like, oh, this is something I actually like. And then you watch TV shows, and I know later you realize all that is fake. Getting a decision made by a judge within 1 hour and stuff like that, because they got to keep the episode going. But nonetheless, so these things all together were the actual building blocks that helped me go forward with wanting to become a lawyer.
So what was it about you you said that was third grade or something? What was it about you that caused that teacher to think that?
That is what I'm trying to figure out. So she must have said, or she must have seen or observed something in me while I was in third grade. She was my third grade teacher, but it was an elementary yearbook. So I was graduating from fifth grade.
Okay.
And so what I'm now, I presume I presented myself where the teachers actually, sort of I never went around saying I'm going to become a lawyer when I grow up. I didn't even know what a lawyer did. So I presume the teacher was able to identify back when I was a child that this person is, or this kid is, geared towards becoming a lawyer. And that's what prompted her to write out, congratulations, wish you best of luck. You've been a great student. And I will look you up when you become a lawyer. So when she wrote that, at that moment, it didn't have much impact until I came across it.
Very nice. So as I mentioned in your intro, you grew up in Queens and Long Island. How do you think that has influenced your approach to being a lawyer?
Yeah, so I think being born and raised in New York, and that too, not being born rich, gave me that level of, what they call it, the New York swag, and the ability to deal and wheeling and dealing with people, and having the ability to actually be exposed to all sorts of people, right? New York is such a diverse city. And again, being born and raised in Queens throughout New York, and I also, hop into the city, Manhattan. I even interned at on Wall Street. I feel like what you watch on TV did exist in real life in New York City. That gave me a lot of ability to be well-rounded and deal with a lot of, different angles of, issues and people in general. You come across all sorts of people, especially in New York City.
So you apparently at least had a good feeling that you wanted to become a lawyer pretty early. You got a bachelor's in legal studies. Take me through your kind of journey into the legal industry after that. You said you interned on Wall Street. Was that a legal internship or something else?
That was in a bank
Okay.
for just 2 months, and that was really financial related. It was actually a detour I took from a law firm, and was visiting family, and just kind of ended up interning there, because at that time I was actually working in a law firm in the state of Florida. So my parents had moved from New York to the state of Florida. In Florida, I started working for one of the largest, I think it is the largest personal injury law firm, Morgan and Morgan. And but prior to that, the other law firms that I worked at, I was just very keen about having to, again, to become a lawyer, you have to start getting your foot into a law firm. I never had the wherewithal to go to college full time, go to law school full time, and become a lawyer. It was like you have to work no matter what. I didn't even have the ability to, or the luxury, I should say, to go part time. So I had to go full time consistently. So it wasn't like, it's funny. I hear a lot of people say, yeah, I was working in law school. I was working while in college. And then you find out they were working between semesters or on the weekends, which is still hard work. I get it. For me, it was Monday through Friday, mainstream job. So whatever I wanted to do had to be in the evenings or the weekends. So I started working in a law firm where I was pushing a mail cart. And I'm proud of that, because now I can train the person who pushes a mail cart in my law firm and be able to help them, organize stuff, like, because I've done it myself. Then I became a legal assistant, a file clerk, a front desk receptionist, every possible position you can think of in a law firm. I used to fetch bagels. Again, this was back in the days. Then I became a paralegal. That gave me a lot of exposure. And remember, my bachelor's degree simultaneously that I was studying was in legal studies. So I was already getting exposed to legal classes. So it was an advantage, and I was able to bring those skills over. And in essence, it just allowed me to transpire into this glorified paralegal, and this mean, lean, fighting paralegal, ego kind of a paralegal that would just dominate the lawyers too. Then at some point, when I started to work with John Morgan, Morgan and Morgan, is when I started to get exposure to personal injury. Over there, I became a case manager. And it was a great experience because they have a lot of cases. That gave me a lot of exposure to so many cases that I could tell you I learned so much that a lot of my peers were not even up, because they were probably working for this one lawyer or this small law firm, and they have few cases. But being in the largest law firm in America gave me the ability to learn so much, like have different angles, have different clients, the difficult clients, the great clients, the medium clients, the difficult but nice client, high maintenance clients, and then dealing with their issues, right? Not everybody's case is going to be so 2 + 2 = 4. Somebody has pre-existing conditions. Now you got to look into the prior medical records. Then you got to be able to figure out the acute findings, the objectives, and on and on and on. That gave me a lot of like interest. And to be a personal injury lawyer, it's not about, oh, my client got hit, now compensate them. You almost have to bring in the A game of almost becoming a doctor. So you have to learn the medical terms. And because again, it's called personal injury. you have to understand your client's injuries, and insurance companies will do whatever they can not to pay. And so you have to bring your A game of understanding the medical stuff. If you don't know it, so that's where the derailment occurs, right? You're thinking you're going to be a lawyer, and here you are learning about medical stuff. So again and again, dealing with so many different clients allowed me to understand so many different injuries. Um, and so that's to answer your question. That is
Yeah.
what the
Yeah,
track
great.
was. Yeah.
What was it? So, being exposed to that and realizing that you have to learn all that stuff, what was it about personal injury law that continued to be attractive to you rather than causing you to maybe pursue another avenue of law?
The settlement money when it comes in.
There you go.
That was a
Uh,
good motivation. But at the end, when I saw a client walking away with a check and I know that they were injured, it gave me a sense of satisfaction and pride. And some people say, oh, yeah, they're bogus. They truly are not. I was involved in an accident and I thought I was okay. I neglected the case because, again, I'm a busy man, just like everybody else. We're busy. We think we're okay. We give a lot more TLC to our cars. We start wondering that does our car need an oil change when the car is not even squeaking or screaming, but we are mentally wired to get the oil change in our car. How many people actually get a physical done every year? Because we keep convincing ourselves, I'm okay, I'm fine. Oh, I don't got time to go to the doctor. So when I was involved in a minor impact, I was all about, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm a student, I got to go to work and I'm busy, busy, busy. Later, lo and behold, later on, I'm like, okay, why am I having pain? So, and like I went through that. So that allows me to connect with the client. So I did not even think about, getting a lawyer, and that was a mistake on my part. So right there and then, I know a compensation was due because I was dealing with low back pain, doctors, medical bills, and what have you. So with clients, when I am actually bringing them to a conclusion, they're getting compensated, and those days are over to get compensation for injuries that do not exist. You have to have an injury. Insurance companies, they got lawyers down the hall, they got doctors and nurses down the hall. So they're going to do whatever they can not to pay. So you truly have to have an injury. Maybe 25 years ago, all you have to say was, "Oh, I'm going to talk to my lawyer. They'll cut you a check." Now it's like, bring it on, because you can bring on your little lawyer. They have a dozen of lawyers down the hall, right? Because I guess they've realized that, okay, we got to fight this. So now it's really, and medical technology has also improved. You can tell what's old and what's new, what's acute, what's degenerative. So over time, I've noticed that it has also become very difficult. So you have to really understand the medical part of it. But once you win that victory check, the settlement check, or you get that verdict in court, lo and behold, that's when you feel that sense of pride for the actual client.
so how did your firm, Fazli Law Firm, come about?
So I felt that I guess it was just suddenly one of those things. Now, after I got married, I have to admit I ended up having a cheat sheet, where I had access to understanding medical stuff a lot more because I got married to a medical doctor, so that gave me so much more understanding of and being able to just go up to my spouse and talk about medical stuff, and the timing was right. And again, to open a law firm, it takes a lot more. It's not just open up and put a shingle outside or hang up a shingle. You got to get clients. So I have been consistently working as a case manager for many years, and I felt that now I don't have to, like, again, I have to be grateful to my family, my parents, who actually were all supportive, but mainly my wife, who was like, you got this, open up your own law firm. And I said, okay, and I did. And I'm like, all right. And now probably she regrets it because I go up to her for every little question about medical stuff. And now she's like, you got to start paying me for medical consultation. I'm like, it was a trick. But anyway, so that's how my law firm materialized. Had enough experience to kind of go on my own. The issue is, anyone can gain experience. That's not a big deal. You work in a law firm consistently. I think I was working in various law firms for about 15 to 16 years. And I think total of 17 to 18 years, up to the part when I got admitted into to the state bar. So at that time, I ended up, having the confidence to open up my own law firm. Again, it comes down to getting clients. So I had done enough networking, and again, I didn't have the kind of money that a lot of lawyers do, right? You have your billboard signs, you're spending 7,000 a month, all this advertisement costs, and I took it from there, and I saw that my clients were multiplying. We are so blessed that we are getting clients from word of mouth and a little bit of a lot of lawyers referring cases to me, and so that's the main takeaway.
Very nice. So speaking of getting clients and cases, when those come along, what's your approach? I know there's some big, huge cases and maybe small cases. How do you handle approaching those types of things?
Yes, I have given a secret recipe, but it's no longer a secret because it's really common sense. I've taught this to my staff. I look at three things in a case: liability, injury, coverage. As long as liability is clear, as long as there's injury, and as long as there's coverage, we sign up the case, we're ready to rock and roll. At that point, I'm not even looking at the value of the case. I am just looking at liability, injury, coverage. These three things is what I need to take the case forward, whether it's worth 1,000, if it's worth 100,000 or 1 million. To me, I see a case. And all these three things are there. And of course, things get complicated. You can't just say, oh, I have an injury. Well, if you have injury, did you get medical treatment? And what kind of medical treatment? And what was the medical diagnosis? And this and that. All this you put together, is the approach that I take. Now, if liability is not clear, we got a problem. We have an issue. We're going to have to look into it. I cannot just sign up the case and give client false hopes, right? I got to let them know, like, look, you're the one who got the citation ticket. So we got to get this cleared. So at that point, that's my approach. If liability is not clear, that's a red flag. If injury doesn't exist, you can have all the coverage in the world. People think, oh, it's $1 million policy. I should just pick up $500,000 at the least. I'm like, yeah, but you got to be injured and be worth $1 million case to pick up the $500,000 or 1 million or whatever it is. So and vice versa, right? You can have all the injuries in the world. People get focused on this. I'm the one who's hurt, but then again, you're the one who caused the accident. So it's like you got to have all three, and people and society at large, and sadly to say this, are not sophisticated to understand what you need. And it's really common sense if you really think about it. Why would the other party be liable for the injuries that you caused to yourself? So it's not about whether or not you're injured, it's whether or not the other party's liable, you're injured, and there's actual coverage, And I've seen all these things in play, where coverage doesn't exist. A person has one of the biggest injuries they could possibly have in their lives. Unfortunately, how can we possibly help them? The law of the land doesn't allow us. We can go after the individual who caused the accident, but good luck on collecting it, right? That's a legislation problem. Like we would hope there would be bigger and harsher punishments, I guess, to deter people to be driving without insurance or whatever. But yes, one can actually get away and I've seen it happen, but so coverage has to exist. If coverage is not there, you just don't have a case. So to answer your question, the approach that I take is I focus on liability, injury coverage. And again, the issue is you're not going to know instantly whether or not you have liability, injury, and coverage, right? The presumption is when a client comes to you, hey, I got into an accident, I wasn't at fault, and I'm hurt, and the other person hit me. That's all I need to get the case going, get them to sign up. The client cannot verify if there's coverage or not. We write to the insurance company to find out if the insurance is active, to get the coverage and whatnot. And then we got to get them in with a doctor, right? They're not going to know your diagnosis immediately. Even a doctor cannot examine you during one visit and give you a diagnosis. The doctor has to see you again and again. And same thing with liability, right? Based on what you're telling me, you're not at fault, but let's see what happens, right? Let's see what the police report says. And hopefully, and the client tells us they didn't get a ticket. So the presumption is the other party is at fault. But then again, that person can be saying, no, you're at fault. So that's the approach I take. That's the very washed down version. It helps everybody understand. It keeps the staff on roll, and it also keeps clients very much in loop of understanding their case.
Can you give me an example of maybe a case that wasn't, as financially rewarding right away as maybe other ones are, but how it maybe benefited you over the long term?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. There have been several, but one big one that stood out was an individual who signed up with me. Again, I focused on my liability injury coverage. I focused on signing them up. The client, again, he went through medical but his diagnosis, his injuries were not to that extent. You know, believe it or not, this guy still checks in with and sends me a Christmas greeting card. The fact that I treated this client, it settled a case for $2,000. I treated his case almost like a $2 million case. I spent so many hours with him talking on the phone, dealing with the insurance company, making him understand why his case is worth $2,000. He was very grateful and he understood the process. I was also lucky to have an intelligent client, right? Some people will never understand. They think it's a lottery jackpot. That's not true. So he was able to understand. So I have to give credit. The client also was sophisticated to understand the process, but I did not neglect him. I still treated him like a client, like a family member, someone who I knew that, you know what, I got to take care of him because I'm his lawyer. It don't matter. Money will come in its place. It's not about the money. It should be about passion. There's a big difference. And I see this a lot, and I can tell you, and I don't want to bore you with this, but I've seen so many clients come to me from other law firms where the attorney doesn't even extend the courtesy of returning the call. Now, with this client, I spent so much time, so much effort, so much energy, made him understand everything, fought, and I can tell you, I think a lawyer, any other ordinary lawyer would not have even been able to get close to $2,000. I was able to wiggle $2,000. And trust me, this case was really, really bad. This client, he gets his check. I barely made money. I lost money on it. 6 months later, he sends me a very simple slam dunk case. He refers a case to me. And the policy, it was a commercial policy. We picked up $300,000. And if I was to take my time on that case, it was a very simple, straightforward case. That $2,000 case paid dividends like 1,000 times tenfold, right? Like 1,000, like 10,000% more. He knew that I took care of him. I had already made a connection with him. He came across a friend who was involved in a car accident, and he helped him bypass any of these billboards. And I took care of this client, and that new client came to me. And of course, I took care of that client at that time when he signed up. Like the value, we didn't know what the coverage was, but we did know there was injuries. But then again, 7 to 8 months later, we settled for $300,000. And because of that is the reason why that if a client comes to me with a case worth $2,000, you know what? As long as you understand it's worth $2,000, I'm not going to leave you out. I'm going to sign you up. And as long as you understand that too, because, we got to deal with clients who are unreasonable too, who are expecting $20,000 on a case that's worth $2,000. So as long as all the variables are in place, that $2,000 case gave me such a substantial outcome that really solidified my feelings of taking care of that client. And I really beat up everybody at the office that, guys, I want the calls to be returned back. I don't care how small the case is or how big it is. We're going to treat every case like $1 million. When we do that, money will fall in its place. That's all.
Nice. Very cool. Awesome. Hey, I have one more question for you, but first tell me how people can find out more about Fazli Law Firm.
Find out more about us?
Yeah.
So one is our website, FazliLaw.com. F as in family, A as in apple, Z as in Zen, L as in like, I as in India. Fazli, law, LAW.com, FazliLaw.com. I try to keep it simple, but over there you can read up about my biography, about my background. We have 3 office locations. We have one in Houston, Texas, specifically in Sugar Land. We have one in Windsor, Connecticut, the suburbs of Hartford, Connecticut. Then we also have the city of Boston, Massachusetts.
So, okay, last question. I live in one of those places, and I've been in an accident that wasn't my fault, and I feel like I'm hurt. At what point are you?
Say that one more time, John.
I've been in an accident. I live in one of those places. I've been in an accident, and it wasn't my fault, and I feel like I'm hurt. At what point should I call you?
So I always tell people, remember three letters, PDA, and not that kind of PDA that people think of. I'm talking more of police. You call the police, right? 911, police officer, you call the police to get the accident documented. And that allows the other party not to say, I was never involved in an accident. So police is the number one thing. Doctor, that's the D. Get to a doctor. You don't have to necessarily go to the ER unless it's an emergency, but I'm not a doctor, so I cannot make that kind of recommendation. Even if you go to an urgent care, do not delay it, right? Because if you're going to wait 10 days, you're going to mess up your case. So you got to see a doctor. And then A, I think you know where that's going, attorney. So police, doctor, attorney, that's it. Call the police at the scene of the accident, call 911. At the end of the day, you don't even know what the other person, how wacko that person is going to start fighting with you. But let's say, even if it's a nice person, you still want to call the police. Do not ever do this where you're like, oh, let's work it out. Call the police, then see the doctor. Some people may want to see the doctor the same day. They might go to the emergency room, they might go to an urgent care, or they might make an appointment with their PCP, but you have to see a doctor, right, to document that you got yourself examined. And that doesn't mean anything. That just means you got yourself examined. That doesn't mean that you've been treated, whatever. Even a doctor at ER, a lot of people are like, I went to the ER, so I'm injured. No, the ER discharged you. And then they're like, yeah, but they said I'm okay. At the same time, it's not a country club, right? It's intended to be an emergency room. They just make sure that your vitals are good and they discharge you. That's all. You treat with the doctor. So doctor's the number two. And after you see the doctor or you get examined by a doctor, you contact an attorney. And honestly, I'm so blessed with so many cases. And I tell this to everybody, I don't need your case. Instead of needing your case, I want your case because I'm just one of those very passionate lawyers that I enjoy what I do. And I exclusively handle personal injury. So, but you need to get a competent attorney, and you have to bypass all these, advertisements. Read the fine prints. It's very misleading, and I know a lot of lawyers are going to get upset. I understand that, but at one time, this level of advertisement was actually not even legal, right? And it became legal, which is totally fine. But what happens is there's a lot of misleading. If a lawyer is yelling, we got so-and-so $1 million, that person who's watching you or listening to you is going to be under the impression that, oh, okay, I'm going to get $1 million. You're kind of misleading the client, right? I feel like that's the line that needs to be drawn. Do the advertisement. I'm all for it. And at some point I might go crazy too. But there's a difference between, advertising your firm and causing this level of misleading stuff. So that's where, at the end of the day, if you want to be a true lawyer, again, winning cases is an advertisement in itself. Taking care of the client is an advertisement in itself. I really think that's an investment of your time and effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice, Usman. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you joining me today. All of your time, your insights, your thoughts. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you, Chad. It was a pleasure, talking to you. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Bye.
So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.